Legacy. It's more than just what I named my daughter, but it's something I think about every day. What do you want your legacy to be? This week, we're going to talk about just that as we look at this interview from Club Shay Shay and Roy Wood Jr. The depths of a man's heart. Who knows how wicked it is? Man, this week, we're going to explore how what's in our heart actually helps shape the boundaries that protect us or that don't protect us. This week in the intersection.
There are a few shiny red buttons that exist in our world today. And one of them in the social media world is whether Christians should be members of Greek letter fraternities and sororities or not. Join us on the next episode of the South by East podcast where we discuss and push the shiny red button.
You know, my mama always said, Philip, a hit dog will holler. Meaning, if someone says something that's untrue about you, it shouldn't strike a chord or strike a nerve. But what happens when people are making jokes or making fun? It starts hurting a little bit. This week, join us as we look at Drewski's infamous skit satirizing mega churches and Derek Miner's response right here in the intersection. Ain't none of your business is one of our favorite phrases that we like to use when someone who doesn't know about a thing gets to talking about a thing. But what happens when some of the things they say are actually true? Join us this week as we talk about the church as a business, some of the comments, and how they go when we talk about business as usual. Have you ever been on the phone with somebody and they're telling you about their day and you want to be there for them because you know that they're struggling? But in your mind, all you can say is, this is your daggone fault. Join us this week as we talk about self-imposed adversity. Let's get us some laughs this week in the intersection. I need another bad habit like I need a hole in the head. Thank you, Method Man, for that word of wisdom. Man, bad habits can really jack up our lives. Some of us are embarrassed of our bad habits, but we learn to get along with them because they are habits. But what about good habits? How much impact could those make on our lives? Join us this week as we talk on the South by East podcast Traffic Reports about the habits that we build our lives on. See you at the intersection. Fun fact about Brielle Watson. I love fruit. I love the smell of it. I love the taste of it. I love the way that it looks on a plate when you get all the colors coalesced together. Fun fact number 2 about Brielle Watson. I am allergic to fruit. If I eat any of it, I will throw up immediately. And so I avoid fruit at almost all costs, even though I love it. Some of us are allergic to success. And we're going to talk about what that means this week in the intersection on the South by East podcast.
You know, John, one of my favorite rappers growing up was Ludacris. And listening to Ludacris's music, I was surprised if I go back how many of those choruses were literally just nursery rhymes. But I remember every single one. Simplicity is sometimes the way to go, but it doesn't always feel like the most rewarding. Join us this week as we talk about Easy as ABC. If you were coming up in the mid-2000s, there is a movie that I don't think you could have missed at all. This was Finding Nemo. Everywhere I went, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. But Nemo didn't understand. He was like, "What? I feel like we need to switch it up. I feel like we need to do something a little different." Yeah. But we found out that Dory had some great wisdom there. There's a lot of wisdom in just continuing to do the thing that you know is the thing you need to do. Join us this week as we talk about what it looks like to get addicted to boring.
Often in life, we like to talk about things like they're all good or all bad, but that's rarely the case. Even in a bad situation, there can be good brought about. Catch the next episode of the South by East podcast where we talk about that very topic.
A few years ago, I was still pretty early in my preaching career, and I thought that using a story from my past would really help people connect with the point. And so as my sermon opens up, my illustration comes on the screen, and in extremely large words, what the church of about 200 people sees are the words, booty sweat. And to this day, no one can tell you what that sermon was about, but they remember booty sweat. Sometimes you choose the wrong words and it takes away from the point of what you're really trying to get across. Join us this week as we talk about Jack Harlow's new rollout and how he just might have found his own booty sweat. We'll see you in the intersection.
Often we sit in spots where our desires are beyond our current situation. Tune in to the next episode of the South by East podcast where we talk about that exact topic. See you in the intersection. I remember growing up and seeing all the commercials for Hooked on Phonics, and I thought it was incredible that they could have these kids reading and doing all these things on the commercials at such an early age. And then one of my teaching friends told me that there's a difference between calling out words and actually knowing how to read. Join us on the next episode of the South by East podcast, where we talk about the difference between calling out words and actually knowing how to read.
You know, one time I was hanging with some friends and we were playing NBA Street Volume 2, best basketball game ever known to man. And we were having a great time, but one of my boys was just so upset. Even when he was winning, he was PO'd. And finally we broke down, we're like, bro, what is wrong? Like, what's the problem? He was like, man, you never gave me my props on the game. And we said, we just told you won, you did good. Like, what did you want to do? Like, no, I mean, when we played basketball in person, you never gave me my props on the game. You never said I did a good job. And all I could say was, bro, that was 6 hours ago. No one is even thinking about that. How does it feel when people don't know how to take an L and they just keep bringing it up over and over and over again? I bet you Drake can tell you. And we're going to talk about it together this week in the intersection. In the 90s when I was growing up, or late 90s, there was a show that was all the rave, and it was called Kids Say the Darndest Things. People would bring kids on the show, sending videos of their kids saying just wild stuff, and you'd be like, where in the world does that come from? Well, I think that everyone on the internet now are just kids, because when you look in the comment sections, my favorite place to read, you'll find some of the craziest things. So, hey, join us this next week as I break down a really funny post and we start reacting to the comments. We'll see you in the intersection. You know, John, I'm one of those rare people that does not like chocolate. And whenever I tell people that, they used to freak out, and I got tired of that. So what I would say is, I don't like chocolate. And they go, wow, why? I said, because it makes me feel like a cannibal.
Oh,
funny,
man.
But is it racist? This week, we're going to jump into the new Drewski skit and some of the controversy surrounding that. Is it racist or not? Where do we draw the line? Join us this week on the Traffic Reports.
You know what, Brell? I always like to tell people, getting married is not as difficult as it is made to seem at times.
Really?
Yeah. All you have to do is continue to ask people to marry you until one person says yes. Join us next time on the South by East podcast, where we discuss, are you willing to keep stepping to the plate?
4 words. They can shut down any argument. They can end any controversy. They can settle the score. Because I said so. The power of authority in an argument. This week, we're going to talk about, can you disobey your pastor and still obey God? It's going to be a good one. We'll see you here in the intersection.
I know last week, Brell told you that there were 4 words that ended every argument because I said so. But I feel like Brell was wrong, because the true argument ender is actually, God told me to. Join us on the next episode of the South by East podcast, where we discuss the God told me to trope.